Welcome to the Ballet Help Desk podcast. My name is Jenny, and I'm joined by my co-founder, Brett. We are both proud ballet moms who met backstage at our children's recital. During our kids' training, we found that resources were limited. We relied on Dance Magazine and fellow parents in the lobby for information. Now that our children are embarking on their professional careers, we're excited to share our combined 20 years of experience as ballet moms with all of you. We'll be bringing in experts to help make sense of this complex world of ballet training. Today we welcome Deidre Byrne. She graduated from Maryland Youth Ballet in 1985. Upon graduation, Ms. Byrne entered the School of Cleveland Ballet on full scholarship. She joined the Cleveland San Jose Ballet 2 years later, where she danced for 13 years and was a soloist in much of the company's repertoire. Upon returning to the D.C. area, she performed with Bowen Macaulay Dance. Ms. Byrne earned her B.S. in Business Marketing from the University of Maryland University College and worked at the Kennedy Center with the Exploring Ballet with Suzanne Farrell program. She is a certified teacher in the ABT National Training Curriculum, Primary Level 5. After 4 years as the Maryland Youth Ballet's principal and associate artistic director, she has taken the helm as their new artistic director and principal. We are so lucky to have her with us today. Let's jump right into the episode.
Hello, and welcome back to the Ballet Help Desk podcast. We are lucky enough to be joined today by Deidre Byrne. She is the artistic director and principal of the Maryland Youth Ballet. So welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Of course. So we are talking today about how ballet studios counsel their students on which summer intensives they should audition for and then ultimately attend. So let's jump right in. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you view summer training for your students?
Well, we find it very important that they have the opportunity at a certain age to go away and get new experiences, new exposures to all kinds of dance professionals that are out there in many programs around the United States. So we always encourage our students to try and do this, usually about age 13, after they've had at least 2 years on point with us. Then about that age, we encourage them to try and go out there.
Do you have the same age recommendations for the boys?
Yes,
okay.
We do.
Great.
Yeah.
And do you require that your full-time students or your year-round students at Maryland Youth Ballet attend the Maryland Youth Ballet summer program?
We encourage it. We have a big summer program that really up to age 12, 13, we have a lot of performing and a full program for those students. And we encourage them to not take 3 months off in the summer. They've done a lot of work all year, and they really should come and maintain their work that they've done all year. So yes, we want them to come, and especially at that age, we want them to come and dance with us in the summer.
So when I talk about students being required to or encouraged to attend your summer program, is that in addition to going to other programs, or is it in lieu of going to other programs? Is it that mostly you just want them to keep dancing through the summer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, definitely, I think that we're starting to see a little bit of a trend of younger students starting to go away. We do not encourage that. If they choose to do that, we can't stop them, but we don't feel like they're really ready to take on the intensity of a summer program in, 5-6 weeks, dancing all day. We have them dance all day too, but we've been working with them, and we can continue that work in the summer. And then we feel like at age 13, they really are ready to, go and give it a try if they want to.
How many weeks do you think a student should take off in the summer?
We really feel like, especially if you're going to go away these programs are intense, as you probably know. It's 5-6 weeks. It's, 4 classes a day. Maybe if they have a performance aspect, it's completely different than the amount of training they get during the year. So if they're ready, if they're going to go away to a summer program, we definitely encourage rest. I mean, your body has to rest. But if they're just say that the year finishes beginning of June and they're going to go away in 2 or 3 weeks, take a little time off, but then come in and take some classes so that you don't go, completely out of shape and get injured if you do that. So a lot of times we provide classes, in those couple of weeks right there, we call them maintenance classes for the kids, and the older kids, and they can come in and, just take a class every day or do some point work. But then definitely, like, those programs are so intense in a good way. They need to take some time off before the school year starts.
When you are talking to your students about that, do you have kind of a set amount of time that you really would encourage them to take off? Because some kids think like, oh, I take off 3 days and that's plenty. Like my daughter always liked to take off August if she could. Like, and as she got a little bit older, it was about 3 weeks, but she really felt like she needed that much time. How do you kind of counsel your students in that?
I think you have to listen to your body. You don't want to lose everything that you gain during the summer, but I really think that, you're athletes. You need to rest your muscles and not think that you're going to lose everything by taking a break. I mean, I know my daughter sort of thinks that way, and I'm like, you need to chill out, calm down. You're not going to lose everything, rest your body, and you will come back feeling better.
Oh yeah, for sure. And maybe those overuse issues will go away and all of that. I do think there is this very interesting trend. You spoke a little bit about younger children going away for intensives. Can you kind of speak on that? I mean, I'm seeing people as young as 9 wanting to go away. Why do you think that trend is happening?
I don't really understand why a school, I don't want to say anything badly about any schools or anything, but I just think that a lot of schools are offering it to them, and I feel like some of the kids, it's a cool, exciting thing. I mean, I did it too, to go away in the summer, but you have to be ready and strong enough to do it. And they get stars in their eyes a little bit. I think. I believe that social media really puts everything, you can really see all these summer programs, all the dancers, all the companies. They're right at your fingertips now. Years ago, you had to wait and go to the Kennedy Center.
Right.
You didn't see them. So now you see that and you want it sooner. And I think, and then these schools are offering, I can't imagine having a 9-year-old go and stay in a dorm for 5 weeks. I mean, we had one student, he went to San Francisco for 2 weeks, and he's pretty young, but I think his mom might have gone with him or something like that. But we don't encourage that. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that they would want students that young from very far away and to have to. We don't have a dorm situation at our school, so I don't know what's involved with that. So
yeah, it's interesting. I think parents kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I got to get on this rat race and get going and all. So we always encourage parents to have their students meet with their teachers to discuss summer. How do you prefer that families discuss summer plans with your studio?
Well, we're pretty open with our students that they can come and talk to us all the time. Usually they, if they have questions, they come and talk to us about it. They might come to us with a list of ones they're interested in. And then we might say, I don't know if this is a great match for you. Let's take a look at what the programming is for the summer and who's teaching there. So usually they know that they can, we usually are talking to them a lot. Where are you auditioning? They can approach us anytime. We tell that to them. We had our one boy, he's 17 now, but he went away last summer and he had a bunch of different options. I went on and researched some of the programs with him, and he chose Pittsburgh because it had a huge men's program in the summer. And he was able to, we don't have a lot of boys in our program, so he was able to be around a lot of other men and do a lot of partnering. And it was a really good match for him. So we did that research together and, it worked out for him really well. So a lot of times we'll do that. If we look at the type of training they might have at a school, is it going to be good for this student or not, to push them, into a different kind of training than ours. Ours is pretty standard. So, a lot of times we'll just talk to them about that and see if it's a good match.
Yeah. I mean, it is so much like finding a good fit and what you kind of need to fill in your holes. So do you think that those conversations and meetings should be driven by students or driven by parents, or kind of a combination of both?
Kind of a combination of both. I think that I feel like we're pretty approachable, but sometimes the kids are not. They're worried about coming up and talking to us. I don't know why, but we encourage students to talk to us on their own. But, parents can ask, we get lots of questions from parents too. we can work together.
You typically have formal meetings to talk about this stuff? Is it more like after class, someone will just pull you aside and say, hey, what do you think of these programs that I'm auditioning for?
Kind of both. We have set up meetings. Some of the other faculty there are pretty good at, if a student asks us for a meeting, we'll find a time before or after class and just sit down with them and talk about the different things they want to do in the summer.
It sounds like you guys are pretty involved, though, with the whole process from deciding where to audition and then ultimately where the student goes. It sounds like you guys have a hand in that all the way through.
Yeah, and we actually, Washington Ballet and our studio are pretty much the main studios in the area that offer all the auditions. We have lots of school auditions come to our studios to hold the auditions. So it's pretty convenient for us.
Yeah. So what do you think are some of the most important factors that students and families should consider when evaluating a summer program?
I think there's a lot of factors. Distance, for example, you start with how far away it is. I know when I was a dancer, I was like, I can go as far away as possible. But then another student might. And there's lots of really good programs that are not like Pittsburgh, or Philadelphia that aren't as far away. And then affordability, obviously, they're not cheap, the programs, because of housing and all of that. And the number of weeks. I like the fact that a lot of these programs now they'll have a 3-week option and a 6-week option or a 5-week. Some of them offer 2, so you can see what your family can afford and maybe if they had other summer plans, and then you can still get that experience in. And they're pretty intense for 3 weeks. So my daughter did a 3-week one and it was intense.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that was enough for her. The size of the program, some of them are very large. I think that a student has to decide, is this smaller program with maybe a little bit of a smaller, smaller name to it might be better because, you look at the faculty and who's teaching there, and maybe you get more personal attention if you go to a smaller program, and that could be really good. Or if you feel like you want to go to a bigger program, then you really see the dancers that are out there and you throw yourself into the mix. And sometimes that's really good and eye-opening and pushes students in a different way. Definitely that. And then the array of classes that they offer. I really think a lot of summer programs really try in the summer, if you can't get those kind of classes in all the time in the winter during the year, then the summer is this big chance to try all kinds of different dance options. It could be from hip hop to contemporary to character to flamenco to anything like that. And summer is the time to really immerse, a student can immerse themselves and really trying to move their bodies in different ways. Because during the year, obviously, they're in school and there's only so many hours in the day. So a lot of times, like at our school, they have to have ballet class every day, and they might have point class, or they might have a modern class or jazz class, but it's not all week long. And then the last thing I would look at is sometimes, and I think this is always really nice, these programs, they have a performance opportunity at the end. It's something to build to, something to work on. The parents can come and see what they did for the summer. And I think that's really nice to have that. So those are the kind of, it's a lot of things, but to look at.
What's your feeling on programs that have a performance at the end versus the ones where you simply come in and watch a class?
It's difficult. Like if it's 6 weeks long, for example, then they have time to maybe put something together.
Mm-hmm.
But just say if it's one of the shorter ones, then it's like 3 weeks and you're taking class every day, and then you're trying to put together something that's actually performance quality. It's kind of difficult to do that.
It is, yeah.
So,
with that, what do you think of those company experiences that are happening for the older students, especially where they go someplace for 2 or 3 weeks and then they put on a full show? Are you encouraging your older students to do that to kind of get on the radar of those companies, or they're a little too short?
I think that would be great. With our summer program, we have 5 weeks and we put together a 45-minute ballet that we perform at Wolf Trap. So it's a lot of
That's cool.
It's great. And the kids love it. They're younger too. It's a little story ballet, and we do it every summer, and you can do a lot in a short amount of time. And that's really good experience for the older kids. That's what the dance world is like. You take class in the morning and you rehearse for 6 or 7 hours.
Yep.
And you can put that together. That's a good taste of what it's really like.
So building on that with summer programs, do you have a different view of what older kids should be looking for and what they should be trying to get out of summer versus the kids that are, say, 12, 13 years old versus like 16 and 17 years old?
Yeah, I think that when they are considering possibly pursuing, a dance career, is that sort of what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, we always tell parents that by that age, they should really be going to summer programs to check out those potential
Mhm.
year-round programs, or even to get considered for a trainee spot or some bridge level program.
Definitely. That is the motivation, especially your like 11th if after 11th and 12th grade,
Mhm.
you really should be narrowing down like where you're interested in trying to find a traineeship or something like that.
Right. No, that totally
Yeah.
makes sense.
And those companies come and look in the classes too, especially for the older kids. They'll come and take a look and see who's there in the summer. And I do think that kids should push themselves to make that first impression.
Mhm.
Especially when they first, the beginning of the summer, and when any of the administrative or anyone running the company is taking a look, you want them to see you, push yourself front, if you're interested. So,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's how my daughter got her job. She went to the 2-week Pittsburgh company experience, and by week 2, they had offered her an apprentice contract. So
see,
it definitely does happen, and the artistic staff is actually watching. And most often they come and teach too because they are looking for talent.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. The other thing we tell parents all the time, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this, is you're really looking for the future all the time. So any summer program you go to, you should be thinking about, is this something a place I'd want to attend year round later on, or is this a company I might be interested in dancing for? Even when they're younger, they should still kind of have their mental checklist of what they want to be looking at. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it just, in a lot of ways, it happens naturally. If you're, it's a feeling you get. It has to be the right fit for you,
Mhm.
where you want to dance. When I was dancing, I was there a long time. I didn't dance anywhere else. I saw people come in and out of the company. They'll come for a year, 3 years, and then leave because for whatever reason they were leaving. But for me, it was a good fit,
Mhm.
but maybe it wasn't for them, at a certain point. So it's kind of the same thing. You're feeling that out in the summer, who you would, there's definitely, I'm sure, from your kids being dancers, a feeling of the company, like, and the school and the whole organization. And does it suit you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you get a vibe when you're there, and
Yeah.
it may take a week or two to kind of figure out that vibe, but there's a definite culture to every program my son's gone to, and the culture is very different depending on where he's
Hmm.
been. So I do want to switch over a little bit and talk about styles and techniques. So when my son was 14, he was at the San Francisco Ballet School. And
Wow.
when he was about 14, he was told that you can't go to a summer program where they are teaching a different style or a different technique. And in this case, it was Balanchine. And
Hmm.
they said, you're not ready. You're just going to have to come back, and we're going to have you unlearn everything you learned over the summer. On one hand, they say we don't want you to learn different styles until you're ready. Yet the only thing dancers keep hearing now is you have to be versatile. You have to know
Yeah.
multiple techniques, multiple styles. So how do you square a student being told they're not ready to go and do that, or they shouldn't do that, with needing a couple of summers to get all of that experience so they become versatile?
That's part of the reason why we don't want really young children to go away, because they really haven't solidified their own technique. They're not strong enough to be able to make that change back and forth. And you take pieces of what you're being taught and apply it to yourself. And if you're not mature enough yet to force your turnout and push your leg back, and it makes your alignment off, if you're really young, you're going to just do what, you're going to do what they say. And then that's sort of what they're talking about,
Mhm.
is that they've had certain training set up, and then they go and undo, what been done. And when the older you get, the more you know that that feels wrong, and you make sure that your body stays in the right place. But I do think that, I mean, I had all kinds of different influences on me. I mean, I went to SAB for a summer. I've had Russian teachers. I've had Chuketti teachers. And I took, those bits and pieces of all of it and applied it to myself. I think that 14, I don't know, is just on the cusp of like being fine with, trying it.
Before we were getting ready to do this podcast, and he said, yeah, my teacher was right. I wasn't ready. And he ultimately ended up going to SAB when he was 16. And I think at that point, his teachers thought he was ready to do it. But he said, yeah, I wasn't ready to go because I wasn't fully baked on what I was learning at San Francisco. And so I think you're right. I think it depends on the kid. And when he was 16, he came back and apparently did not have to unlearn a lot of things. So
yeah, he took the good parts. Yeah.
Exactly. I just want to turn the conversation a little bit to talking to parents where schools will not allow their students to go away. We get questions from parents all the time saying, my dancer's school, their year-round program, will not let them go away for the summer. What advice do you have for parents where they may have a student at a school like that?
I personally don't agree with that. I don't. I mean, some of the best improvements I made in my personal, when I was dancing, was to go away in the summer, to dance with other teachers. You never know, what a teacher is going to look at a student and see something and be able to say something just the right way. All of a sudden something clicks. Those moments are so important in a dancer's training. You have the same teachers all the time. You need fresh eyes on you sometimes when you're getting older. Like I said, a little younger, not ready. But once they're older, you need to start being pushed in different ways to improve your technique and to get stronger.
The other thing is, you raised a good point about kind of getting out there and seeing what the dance ecosystem looks like. And if you can't go away, the dancer doesn't get seen. And it's really hard to start evaluating next steps if they've never gone away to a summer program, or if none of these places have seen that dancer before.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you have to get out there and be seen.
Right.
I mean, it's hard for a lot of students because it's not cheap to do it.
No, it's not.
No. So when a student comes to you and says that they want to dance professionally and you believe that they have the potential to do that, how do you work with them to develop any kind of strategy for mapping out their summer programs for the next couple of years?
I had a mom come to me. She didn't have any background in dance, and her daughter's in 11th grade and interested in, she could dance. And it was basically talking about, she needs to make a list of places that she might be interested in and really, look at those summer programs and see if, she can attend one of them. She might have done that last summer. She has basically 2 more summers to do that and really look at their programming, see, what kind of, if they have, sometimes they have these graduate programs like Pittsburgh has, maybe that would be something. I know there's one, I think is it Austin Ballet has a great
Their
graduate program. Yeah. Look at that if that's something she wants to do. So I was trying to map out with her mom, getting her daughter to start doing the research. And, obviously, like I was saying, there's so many ways to look at these schools and see videos and, look at the companies, and especially the company too, that might be connected to the school. We've had a lot of students. We have a young lady was in our school, and she is at San Francisco now, and she's a trainee with that kind of mapping out, just trying to find all the different options and then seeing, which place would be a good match for you and see if you can go there for the summer.
Right.
So kind of what tips do you give the kids to help them figure out what is actually a good match? Is it stylistically what the company does and how they can kind of help use that summer to figure those things out? What are some things that parents can help their kids look for? Because when you're looking at programs, lots of people just go based off a name.
Right. I mean, I just really think it's looking at if you could see them perform somehow, I just think that as a dancer, you look at that and say, I love what they're doing. I love the way the dancers look. That, looks like a community that I really feel like I would, grow in, thrive in. And other than that, just doing your own research and maybe visiting, maybe.
One
Yeah.
thing we've told parents is if your dancer says they want to dance professionally, that you really have 5 or 6 years or 5 or 6 summers to look at programs. And maybe you can do 2 in a summer if you play your cards right. But, one of the things I wish I had done with my son has been a little more strategic about saying, okay, you're 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Let's look at all the places you want to hit over that time period. Do you ever talk to students about kind of that long-term planning, that there's lots of companies out there, there's lots of summer programs out there. Let's figure out all the ones that you want to hit kind of over the lifetime of your training?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we've talked to students about that and had them, map out all the ones that they are interested in, and then try and see if those are ones that they want to go through. But a lot of times what I find is they're dancing for the love of it. And then when does it exactly kick in that they really want to pursue this?
Right. It's
It
different for
depends.
everybody.
Yeah, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some mistakes that you see dancers making when they decide on what program to attend?
Well, one of the mistakes I at least saw this summer was size of the program.
Mhm.
And getting personal attention and being lost in the crowd. I know 1 or 2 students that went to a program, I won't say which one, and it was enormous. And I have to say that our students are very well trained. One of them, at least 1 or 2 of them, felt like they were put in levels that were not challenging them.
Hmm.
And I think that there are so many kids in these big programs. They're so big. There's so many kids coming in. It's really hard for these faculty to give a lot of personal attention and remember these students, all day long. Maybe they teach 1 or 2 classes a week, that a lot of dancers go away hoping to have someone have a small amount of focus on them and be able to give them some nuggets of things that they can work on. And a lot of times, it depends on their personality. If they're not pushing themselves to the front, or if they're kind of quiet, they're not going to be able to get that kind of feedback that they want. This one student, she's kind of quiet. She didn't really feel like she got a lot out of it. And it's, 6 weeks. It's a long time.
That is a long
So
time.
I kind of think she probably was somebody who should have gone to something that was smaller.
Yeah,
That's the one thing.
it's interesting. We have, several months ago, we launched our summer intensive reviews where people can come to our site and write reviews of different programs. And we have noticed a couple of programs kind of bubbling up where the comments have been, class sizes were huge, my dancer didn't get a lot of attention. One of the recommendations for things that they'd love to see changed is to cut the class size. And so, it's interesting that you had dancers that experienced that, because we were seeing some trends with some specific programs about that.
I mean, I understand everybody's trying to survive right now. So they, think that they can have really big classes. But I just think that if a kid is making all that effort and the family to go to a program, they should be able to come out of it having felt like they got something good out of it.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's always so subjective and personalized anyway, right? 2 people can go to the same program and have the same teacher and come out with very different experiences.
Definitely.
So it's really the way you internalize what they're saying and the way you are receiving it, which makes it kind of tricky. So let's say you have a student that comes back from summer and has been offered a year-round spot and they want to take it. What is the best way to speak to their home studio about that opportunity?
We have had students do that. I understand. Like we've had a lot of students over the years go away their senior year of high school because they're just at the point where they want to push themselves that much harder for example, like at Houston, and be in the school there. It's a big school, get that training, try and push themselves and get into the company. That's, that happens a lot. And it's, for certain students, it's a really good move. For example, we had a student who had just come to us a year or two ago, and then she went away this summer and then decided to go back to the school that she went to this summer. And I was a little disappointed because I just felt like we were just getting started with her and she wasn't quite ready. She's only in ninth grade. I don't believe it's a good idea to do it when you're really young, but maybe like when you're trying to top off your training at the end there, where you're trying to get that push to get into a company or get a traineeship, maybe it's a good choice to do that.
Mhm.
Can you expand on why you are discouraging students who are younger to leave earlier? Because it is kind of a trend that is happening where schools are accepting kids younger. And can you kind of speak on that a little bit?
Personally think that, family is really important when you're really young. And I think that like back when I was, it was very different in the 80s and 90s. It was a big deal to be like 14 or 15 and go to SAB and then get in the company when you're 15 or 16 years old.
Mhm.
And now they don't really want that as much anymore. They want people to be more mature. And I just think that if you have a good homeschool and the training is really good choice, but I don't think it's necessary to do that until you're a little older.
Well, one of the things
Um,
we talked to the head of a school about this, and there's so many non-ballet related things that you have to think about when you send your student off. And Jenny and I were fortunate. We're in San Francisco, so our kids could go to their local San Francisco Ballet School was their local school. But the notion of sending my 13-year-old off or my 14-year-old off, obviously there are kids who are independent enough to do it. I am fairly certain mine would have blown up if he had gone away at that age.
it depends on the kid. I think you're right. I think that you can tell, if a kid has drive and they're going to be perfectly fine doing that. But I have seen other kids that have not. They're just not emotionally. They need that emotional support of their family, and I don't think it's necessary to do it that early.
Right. We were talking to a teacher at another school, and one of the things that he was saying is he feels like some local schools hold on to their students for too long. It sounds like you're the opposite. It sounds like you really encourage students if they get a great opportunity at the right age and you think it's the right place, you really encourage them to kind of fly the nest and go see what's out there.
Right. It's hard for us because we don't have a company attached to our school. So
Right.
we don't want them to leave, but if someone wants to be a professional ballet dancer, we understand why it's necessary if they're ready to go.
Mhm.
But I do think that for us, with all of our performances, we don't use guest artists, and all of our students do all of the roles in all of our productions. We do professional productions, full length ballets, Nutcracker. In our spring concert, we do full length ballets. And so they get a lot of performance opportunities and doing lead roles and that kind of thing. So, we try and keep our professional opportunities, if they are not ready to leave yet, as high a caliber as possible.
One of the things we were talking about before is you were talking about how there are programs that are getting younger and younger, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds going away. The other thing that we're seeing is these winter and spring intensives popping up. And, I feel like every time there's a break, there's an intensive to fill that space. And parents, we see it all over Facebook right now. Does anybody know of any winter intensives available? What's your feeling on those?
Again, I'm a fan of resting your body. There's only, like I said before, there's only so many hours in the day. And if a student is trying to push themselves to that next level, it's kind of hard to do that in the winter because it's not the same as the summer intensive. But I also think that could be a really cool opportunity, depending on what it is, to work with somebody for 4 days or whatever it is to get a new experience. I don't think it's necessary. I think that those breaks are there for a reason. You do Nutcracker to a certain point, and then you should take a break. In the spring, you've been taking class and you've been in school, you should take a couple days off. But I do see it as an opportunity, like all of a sudden you have these days where you don't have school. But I think it just depends on what it is exactly, and not, if a place is just trying to fill the void and make some money. As long as they have good quality faculty with a specific plan, push their students with these opportunities, then that sounds like it could be a cool thing.
Sure. It's also a good recruiting tool for the schools.
Yeah.
There are more and more, at least we're seeing this out here, there are more and more local schools that are starting full-time day programs. And having a winter intensive or a spring intensive is sort of like the equivalent of doing a short stay. So you go, you check it out, and it might give people an opportunity to recruit talent.
Yeah. It's a great idea.
We've gotten a lot of questions from parents about types of training. There seems to be a concern about various techniques that are taught in schools. If a dancer wants to be a professional, what would you tell them to seek out in terms of technique?
At a certain age, or like when they're young?
Yeah, so like for example, my daughter's teachers told her to try to be as complete a dancer as possible. She went to Boston and got some Balanchine, and then she went to Royal Danish and got some Bourneville and, did some modern stuff and some contemporary stuff, like to try to make herself as a complete a dancer as possible. So then she can be useful when she's in a company and really establish herself as a well-rounded dancer. How do you kind of encourage your students to do that, to place themselves well in this like very competitive job market using summer?
You want to be in a curriculum that includes not only very good ballet training is the base of many, many forms of dance. And having that strong in your work is first. And then if you're looking at summer programs, looking for ones that look at the faculty that's coming and their backgrounds and what, like you're saying, the contemporary or the different kinds of dance that they have in their background, and look for those so that you can add that to your resume of things that you've been exposed to and helped your quality of movement. I mean, I think a lot of these summer programs are really bringing in all kinds of amazing people, and to look for those so that you get that experience.
So you don't think it's as important to kind of get the different styles of training? You think it's more important to have really, really solid classical training, and then you can expand from there?
You can expand from there, but I do think that it is important to get all those different styles. Definitely, all these companies are not just doing, Sleeping Beauty all the time anymore. Mm-hmm. They do all kinds of contemporary works, and finding a way, if you go away for a summer and maybe, like I know Jacob's Pillow has a contemporary ballet program mm-hmm. in the summer. You go and do that. They're calling it temporary ballet. So you're not doing classical works. You're doing all kinds of contemporary works and working with different choreographers and learning how to move a different way. That is really a wonderful way to spend your summer, doing that kind of thing and mm-hmm. getting that exposure. But it's really important that dancers have all of that now. It's, not just definitely good ballet base, but then expand from there.
Yeah, because the demands on a professional dancer these days is definitely significantly higher. You kind of have to do it all.
Yeah.
And you have to be, ready to go and have it in your body, which is, hard to do in just a few summers. So planning strategically and that's a good idea to look at maybe a contemporary program on top of your classical training. Maybe go up to like Arts Umbrella or something like that and go do a couple of weeks. I mean, there's some really cool programs out there. I think that's excellent advice.
Also now, a lot of dancers are really pushing cross training. They do all, like back when I was dancing, Pilates was just starting. We weren't really encouraged to cross train. I mean, I went to the gym a little bit, but that was not encouraged. And dancers are athletes, like using from the hair on the top of their head to the tip of their toes, basically. And to have that kind of cross training, like talking about contemporary ballet, will help you do all kinds of different forms of dance, not just ballet. There's all these companies have these big cross training, equipment, and they, they want them to do it. It makes them stronger. A lot of times if I talk to some of my kids or something, what are you doing this summer? And some of them are like, oh, I'm just going to come for 1 week or whatever. And it's like, well, just as long as you spend the rest of the summer moving, do whatever, just make muscle so that you're just, not sitting around. Or I think that really helps a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And so are you saying that also you should look for a summer that offers some of those cross training to kind of expose you to maybe something that isn't offered in your home studio that can really kind of help you with the athleticism that is
Yes.
so many of those contemporary ballets out there, or even just
Yeah.
the stamina of getting through Sleeping Beauty, right? It is
Right.
still a 3-act ballet. It's
Yeah.
still
Yeah. I mean, if they have any things in their programming like that, I think it's great. Yeah.
it's wonderful exposure for all of that. So is there anything that we haven't covered that you would like to speak on?
I guess when I think about the summer, it's supposed to be fun and a wonderful experience.
Mhm.
And you go there to like embrace having a challenge, get new feedback, retain the corrections from people that, the faculty that might say something to you that like makes a light go off, and then to enjoy yourself, make new friends, have a wonderful time. Times these programs, you're there for the weekends, they take you out and do different things. You really want to be in a place where you come home and you just had a great time. I think that that's really important, that they
Yeah,
come back with a positive experience.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I think I can speak for Jenny and for myself. Both of our kids, that was like the highlight of their year, was going away for the summer. And my son, we used to call it his deep, dark depression when he'd come home. He'd come home, go to his room for 3 days because he was so sad that he had to leave his summer program. But yeah, they're supposed to be fun and you're supposed to make all these friends. And the thing that's so interesting to us is the ballet world is small. And so you see these kids over and over again. And so, the thing that's really funny is my son, one of the kids that he's friends with in the Second Company of Houston, they met when they were 11. They went to the junior program at Joffrey in Chicago. And it was a short program, but they met there and have stayed friends ever since. And so it's really cool. Like when these kids go away and they meet these kids and then fast forward 5 years and they're all working together.
Right, right. I know. It is a small world.
It is.
For certain. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, sure.
We really appreciate it. We feel like this is going to be super helpful for so many students and parents because summer intensives just feel like this big black hole. At least it was for me. I mean, and the only way I could learn about anything was literally Dance Magazine and the advertisements they had in there. And I was like,
That's
they
right.
told me she's supposed to do this, so okay, we'll pick the ones that take your age, and that's how we chose. I didn't know anything. I didn't
Right.
take nothing. So the wealth of information that is at people's fingertips now. And then a little plug for Ballet Help Desk with our
Yes.
with our boot camp. There's just a wealth of information out there now.
Well, I'm glad you're both doing this. It's really wonderful.
Thank you.
Resource for everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us. And where can people find you?
MarylandYouthBallet.org.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to meet both of you.
You
It was
too.
nice meeting you too. It was lovely chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Happy
Bye.
holidays. Take care.
Happy holidays to you. Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed our Summer Intensive Bootcamp series. This will be our final new podcast of 2023. We will be re-releasing a few from the archives. We'll be taking some time off to watch our kids perform in the Nutcracker and spend some quality time with our families through the new year. Starting on January 3rd, we will begin a new interview series focusing on bridge programs. During the Nutcracker season, or maybe you've finished your shows, I want to share with you why I love the Nutcracker Ballet so much. As a performer, you may feel exhausted from multiple shows. I want to remind you of the impact your performance has on the audience. There's always a child in the audience who is watching ballet for the first time, and the Nutcracker tends to be their introduction to this beautiful art form. That child falls in love with ballet and is transfixed by the magic of it all. In fact, I remember my daughter being that 4-year-old in the audience at Ballet San Jose. She sat there wide-eyed, mesmerized for the entire performance. When the show ended, she pointed to the stage and exclaimed, "I want to do that." The Nutcracker is also a tradition for so many friends and family, and it brings them together during this holiday season. In fact, it tends to be a highlight of their year. I love that ballet is part of that tradition. So even though you may feel tired from performing, remember that your performance creates a magical experience for those who are seeing ballet for the first time and is a cherished tradition for so many. We wish you a wonderful holiday season and look forward to speaking with you in 2024. If you liked what you heard on this episode, please take a moment and help us spread the word. Follow us and leave us a review on your preferred podcast platform. Tell a friend and share on your social media. Also, now that your dancer has returned from their summer intensives, please head over to ballethelpdesk.com and leave an anonymous review of the program. Help your fellow dance parents by letting them learn all about the good, the bad, and everything in between. To stay in the loop on all of our latest content, subscribe to our newsletter at ballethelpdesk.com and follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Until next time, have a great day.